Hey everybody, this is The Loop. Just got a couple of things I want to talk to you about today. Number one, I wanted to remind you that today starts our Serve series. And it's not just a sermon series, it's an opportunity for you to gather some friends together and look at what it might mean for you to live a life that is serving other people. And so that might be people that you know at church. It might be people that you know from work or your kids, friends, parents, or whoever you might pull together to say, hey, let's dig into a study on what it means to live a serving life. And I got to be honest with you, it might be the perfect opportunity to bring somebody in who's far from God, because anybody might be interested in learning to serve other people. So stop by Next Steps on your way out, buy a book. They're $10 a piece. And as we sort of walk through this series that Kellen's preaching on today, we're gonna dig into that question about what it looks like to be a person with a servant's heart. Also wanted to remind you, just ask you to be thinking about Christmas. I know it feels, honestly, I can't stand the fact that Christmas starts right after Halloween, but it has. So here's what I want to invite you to. I want you to be thinking about who you're going to invite to Christmas. There are people who are going to be willing to come to church either the weekend of Christmas, which is December 22nd or 23rd, or Christmas Eve. We're going to have 2 Christmas Eve services right here at the Pontiac Convention Center. We're going to do them at 3:30 and 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve. And so if you've got friends, that maybe grew up in church, but haven't gone for a really long time, and who might be willing to say yes to come into a Christmas Eve service, make sure you're thinking about who you're going to invite. That's all I have for you. This has been The Loop. Now you're in it.
Have you ever have a relationship with somebody that was maybe a little volatile, where at times there could be these just sort of quickened, accelerated, escalated moments? I never had a brother, but I've noticed something now that I'm an uncle and I've got a couple sets of nephews that are brothers. There's these moments where everything's fine and everything's good, and all of a sudden, bam, and it's like, what just happened? So you can be playing football with your nephews, and everything's good, throw the ball, hey, nice catch, good job, and all of a sudden, one of them has the other one in a headlock, and he's turning purple. You ever see situations like that? Quick escalation moments? I'm not gonna lie, I had them with my sisters too. Sisters can be punks too. Or I was probably the bad one. But me and my little sister, I maybe have said this before, me and my little sister, we would do this thing where I'd get mad at her and I'd be like, nobody likes you. And she'd be, you got no friends. Which was very truthful, and it hurt a lot every time she said it. So I'd be like, Mom and Dad adopted you. And then she escalated even further, and God hates you. And I was like, whoa, that's too far. Every time. But escalation happens, and quick tempers happen. The crazy thing is that we're going to see in a passage we're going to read right now out of Luke chapter 9. Even Jesus' best friends, his disciples that were hanging around with him all the time, had moments like this where they had a quick temper, where there was quick escalation moments. And so you can look up on the screen, we're looking in Luke chapter 9, starting in verse 51. It says, as the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. And he sent messengers on ahead who went into a Samaritan village to get things ready for him. But the people there did not welcome him because he was heading to Jerusalem. When the disciples James and John saw this, they asked, Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to destroy them? Probably never. Do you want us to call down fire? That's kind of what I imagine. But Jesus turned and rebuked them, like Jesus should. Then he and his disciples went to another village. Now I know that this is probably not a laughing matter for Jesus. Go with my friends, just ask me if I should call down fire. No. But I can't help when I read this. Every single time I read this, there's a part of me that wants to laugh out loud at just how ridiculous James and John are. What in the world are they thinking? To call down fire on this town that they're not letting them stay in. I imagine that maybe will be a day in heaven where we're all sitting around and we get to hang out with Jesus' disciples, James and John. I'm not thinking that this is the conversation that they want to reminisce about. Hey, James and John, remember that time where you said to Jesus, like, hey, Jesus, they're not letting us stay here. Should we call down fire? They're like, guys, I don't remember what happened. I don't know what you're talking about. So these quick escalation things, they happen a lot. And we live in a social media world, and you see it on social media all the time. So I went online, and I found a couple of quick escalation moments for your pleasure this morning. This one says, I need Google in my brain and antivirus in my heart. Don't really know what that means. But down on the bottom, the comment is, and Photoshop on your face. Whoa! Not gonna lie, I kind of find that funny. And I'm this really immature adult who every time somebody tries to make fun of me, they're like, you're too short, I'll be like, your face is too short. It doesn't mean anything. It makes no sense, but I say it. Unfortunately, I have a 4-year-old daughter. She also now says those things. You're so nice, your face is nice. I'm like, honey, you're 4, stop. Okay. Next one is, wishing my GPA looked like those gas prices. And the comment below is, and I wish those gas prices looked like your GPA. I have to think about that for a second. But it is really, really clever. Just take it home, think about it. Next one is, this one's really poetic. I love this. Maybe it's not always about trying to fix something broken. Maybe it's about starting over and creating something better. Person says, and that's why you have a younger brother. Seriously, people. You know, if you have a sibling, you've said something to that effect. The temper and this quick escalation that we see with James and John, it's one of those things that, it happens at times. Just because they hang out with Jesus doesn't mean that they're perfect. But what it shows me, it shows that they don't understand exactly what Jesus is trying to get out of them. Now, the passage doesn't really make it clear if it was James and John that Jesus had told to go ahead and make things ready. But he had said it to one of the disciples, and essentially what Jesus is always trying to do is he's trying to get the disciples to learn how to serve. Not just serve him, but serve people. And these guys, by their reaction to this Samaritan town, show that they have a faulty understanding of what that looks like. And so as we talked about, over the next few weeks, we are going to be talking about serving. And we would love for you, just like we did in this last Thrive series, to get together with some people, to go through concepts of serving. We've got videos for you online. We got a book in the back that you can buy. Our hope is that by the end of these 4 or 5 weeks, that you have grown in an understanding of what serving looks like in your life. Just like James and John, they grew. They didn't stay in this place for the rest of their life. It's obvious to see that this Samaritan village didn't like Jesus and his disciples. It's kind of commonly known, for the most part, that Samaritans didn't like the Jewish people. But what made this situation even worse was the Samaritan village, they found out that Jesus and his disciples were going through the town to get to Jerusalem. And the problem with that is that they couldn't stand Jerusalem. Jerusalem, they saw it as a place, it was this invalid place for worshiping God. And so when they found out that they were going on their way through to Jerusalem, that was kind of the last straw. No, wait, you guys cannot stay here. So we understand why they would react to James and John the way that they do. It's hard for us to understand why James and John reacted the way that they did. But I think we need to be fair to them this morning, because when all is said and done, I think there's a reason why they reacted the way that they did. It was faulty, but they reacted because of something. See, they knew Scripture really well. James and John knew the Old Testament before it was the Old Testament. It was the only testament. They knew it. And there is a story in the Old Testament coming out of 2 Kings chapter 1. It's a story of a king named Ahaziah. And Ahaziah, it's this really weird sentence in Scripture. And it says that he got injured really, really badly because he fell through the lattice in his upper room, in his bedroom. I don't know what that all means. But it means that he probably was not an in-shape dude, and he fell, and he got hurt super bad in his bedroom. And so what he does is he tells all of these messengers that he has to go and talk to the prophets of this foreign god Baal. Go and talk to the prophets and see if the prophets will tell him whether he's going to live or if he's going to die. But now there was a prophet of God whose name was Elijah. Most of us have heard of the name Elijah before. And God tells Elijah, I want you to go and stop those messengers who are on their way to those prophets of Baal. I want you to stop those messengers, and I want you to ask them, are you going to those prophets because the God of Israel is no longer living? And obviously the answer is no to that. That's a dumb question. And then he tells him to say to those messengers, go back to King Ahaziah and say, you will never leave the bed that you are lying on. You are certainly going to die. And so these messengers go to King Ahaziah and they tell him this message. And immediately the king knows that it was the prophet Elijah who said this, because Elijah has this way of saying stuff that gets under his skin. And in this pagan culture that King Ahaziah is ruling over, they believe that these curses that a prophet would put on somebody that have magical powers, or so they thought. If you could get the prophet to take back the curse, or if you could kill the prophet, it would nullify the curse that was put on you. And so what do you think that King Ahaziah does? He gets a captain, and he gets 50 men to go along with this captain. And they go out in search for the prophet Elijah. And they find him, and Elijah's smart. He knows that they're either going to try to capture him, bring him back to the king, force something out of him, or they're going to kill him. So, what does Elijah do? He calls down fire from heaven, and they all die. And so King Ahaziah sends another captain, another 50 men out. And same thing happens. Elijah calls down fire from heaven, and those men die. And then the third time that King Ahaziah sends out a captain and 50 men, that captain comes humbly to Elijah. And so Elijah doesn't call down fire from heaven. You can see that these stories between Elijah and James and John are completely different stories. But somewhere inside of James and John's warped brains, they think, we're like the prophet Elijah right now. We should call down fire from heaven. Doesn't make sense. The prophet Elijah was trying to keep a king, an earthly king, from subverting the authority of God. James and John, man, there was just a town that was telling them, you guys can't stay here. No vacancy. It's a big difference. So James and John are frustrated. So now they're thinking, there's like no point for this trip. Like, this is a waste of our time. But if you go back to verse 52 from Luke chapter 9, it actually says in there that Jesus sent men ahead to get things ready for him. And I think that brings us to a really important question this morning. If Jesus does the sending, is there any way that your act of service is a waste of time? If Jesus is the one sending us out, no matter how things turn out, is it a waste of time? If Jesus puts it on your heart to tell one of your friends what Jesus has done in your life, and your friend wants nothing to do with it, is it your right to get frustrated and angry and upset? If Jesus asks you to serve in a job that doesn't pay you the way that you want to be paid, and it doesn't give you the status that you want, like your peers all get, they're in jobs that are paying a ton of money, and they're being put up on a pedestal and all this stuff, is that job that Jesus has put you in and wants you to be in, is that job a waste of time? Could there possibly be a purpose that Jesus has for you in that job that's actually more important than all the other things that you could be doing? Do you have right or reason to feel slighted or to feel underappreciated? If Jesus asks you to serve your children day after day after day with graciousness and love, unending grace, and if you're a parent, I hope that you realize that's what you're supposed to do. And your kid continually just kind of throws it back in your face. Are we just supposed to stop serving our kids? Serving should never be a reaction to how I am treated. Serving is a reaction to what Jesus has asked me to do. If Jesus asks me to do it, it doesn't matter how I'm being treated, what happens, it's the right thing for me to do. And I think that's where John and James got into trouble here. They weren't thinking about Jesus as they reacted. They were thinking about themselves. And that happens a lot of times. We get pride within us. And James and John got pride. Them and the disciples, they're trying to serve in a certain way. And all of a sudden, who are these Samaritan people to tell us that we can't come and stay here? I don't have to put up with this. God asked us to do something. It just isn't going the way. I don't have to put up with this, God, with these people's attitude. James and John needed to hear the same thing and be reminded of the same thing that I think that sometimes we need to be reminded of. Serving is not about me. It's always about Jesus. And I know that sounds super like duh. But we have to be reminded of it all the time. I remember there was a time that I was doing an all-nighter with some kids from my youth group at another church that I was at. This is before I realized that all-nighters are just stupid. Like, I shouldn't have to be around a teenager at 3 in the morning, okay? And then you have kids, and then they wake you up all night, and you're like, I have an all-nighter every night, so like, why do I have to put myself through this? Well, so this all-nighter, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't know how I found this out. I don't know if a girl came out of the bathroom and came and found me and told me this. I'm trying to say this in the least disgusting, least gory way that I possibly can, okay? But it sounds like what happened was a teenage boy, junior higher, obviously, went into the girls' bathroom and plugged up the toilet with the greatest, largest amount of human waste that I've ever seen in a toilet in my entire life, left by one person. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life, people. And here's the deal. If you know me at all, you know that just about every sermon, something comes up about I am a germaphobe, I hate disgusting, gross things. So my first reaction was, I'm going to go find this boy, and he is going to unplug this toilet if he has to reach in there with his arms. Yeah, I would have made him do it. Problem was I couldn't find the kid. The kid had somehow gotten picked up by his mom. I'm like, really, you do that? I was so mad. And so I'm sitting here thinking, all right, the next evil thought that came through my head was, can I just keep it there until the custodian comes in the morning? In full disclosure, there is one reason why I went to college to get a degree. That was so that I wouldn't have to get a job where I would clean a public bathroom. Like, that's the one reason I went to college, people. So I'm sitting here thinking, how do I not have to clean this bathroom, this toilet right now? And then I realized that I wasn't reacting to this situation the way I was supposed to be reacting to this situation. This was a test of whether or not I would react according to what Jesus was asking out of me or not. See, Jesus was asking me to serve these kids. He was asking me to serve this church. And if that meant unplugging the grossest toilet that I'd ever seen in my entire life to that day, that's what it meant. And I want to say, I unplugged the toilet. You probably should give me a round of applause for that. Because even thinking about it, the second time I've told this story today, and I want to puke. Some of you may not be serving because you haven't found the place that is fulfilling, the place that just gives you life and energy. And I'm going to be honest with each and every one of us this morning, that is not why we're called to serve. Serving is not just something to do to make ourselves look or feel good. Serving every single time is to do something to bring glory to Jesus. The gospel is the good news of Jesus. And the good news is that he loves us before we ever love him. And so if someone denies my attempt to love them, to serve them well, doesn't mean that I'm supposed to escalate things and call fire down from heaven. As much as I wanted to call fire down from heaven on that teenage boy. Not what we're supposed to do. Sometimes I feel like I treat serving people like I treat the concept of tipping at a restaurant. I'm going to be honest with you, it's a concept that I don't like or agree with. I do it. Don't worry, okay? There's a guy a few years back who was making some TV shows. You might have seen it. It was called Adam Ruins Everything. And he did one episode that was called Adam Ruins Tipping. And I loved it. He talked about how in other countries, it's a novel concept. The owner of a restaurant pays their servers a good wage based on how good of a server they are. I know, it's weird. It's a weird thought. And so if you're a good server, you'll get a good wage from your restaurant or not. And you charge a little more for the food. And so you're not arbitrarily asking me to pay the the server's wages. Now, I love that concept because I want you to just put on the menu how much I owe for this burger, and I don't have to think that I have to do calculations in my head later on how much I'm actually going to have to pay. So now here, I don't like the concept of tipping, but I do tip. But sometimes when I go to a restaurant, what happens is I'm not served in the way that I want to be served, and so I don't feel like leaving a tip. But just because I'm not served well, does that mean that I shouldn't serve that other person well? Just because God hasn't put me in a situation where I'm enjoying what I'm being able to do to serve Him, the way that He's asking me to serve, does that mean I shouldn't serve at all? I'm just going to throw this in there. I think it's a sad thing that if you ask people in the food business, what's the toughest crowd to have to serve? I've heard a ton of times, it's the Sunday after church crowd. And I'm going to tell you that's wrong. That is not gospel living. That is not serving others the way that Jesus has asked us to serve others. People should be excited when we get to come in and share a little bit of life with them. See, Jesus serves us even when it's hard. Jesus went to a cross and He gave up His entire life. It cost Him everything. And He didn't do it. He didn't serve us for what He was going to get back from it. And I think there's a real gospel truth that we need to understand this morning when we look at how James and John reacted in this situation. No matter how much you may have gone about serving in all the wrong ways in the past, Jesus has something for you to begin doing for Him right now, even today. See, James and John, they really messed up in this little Samaritan town. They absolutely messed up. They made it all about themselves. And there's some times when I make it all about myself. But Jesus didn't tell James and John that you no longer are worthy to serve me. He forgave them. He gave them other opportunities down the road, just like He'll give us other opportunities down the road. Jesus always has something that I can do to further His kingdom right now, in this very moment. And it's that kind of right now attitude that we're going to see as we go into the next part of this passage in Luke 9. Jesus has a right now attitude for every single person that comes His way that says, I want to follow you. Okay, there's a way that you can follow me and you can do it right now. And so they leave this Samaritan town and they're on their way to Jerusalem. That town wouldn't keep them, so okay, we'll go on the road and we'll keep going down to Jerusalem. And so on the road to Jerusalem, Jesus has 3 conversations with 3 different people. And these conversations were probably longer than what Luke records them. Records about 2 sentences per conversation. And they are so important for us understanding this right now attitude that we have to serving God. In Luke chapter 9, verse 57, it says, as they were walking along the road, a man said to Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied, foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay His head. He said to another man, follow me, but he replied, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. Jesus said to him, let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. And still another man said, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. And Jesus replied, no one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. I think every time I've read this in my entire life, the thing that goes through my head is, man, Jesus, you sound harsh. A lot of us have probably thought that at some point. I don't think Jesus is being harsh here. I think Jesus is trying to say that there is something bigger that you are called to live for than you could have ever imagined. There is something bigger for you and I to focus our energies and our mind on every single day. I can focus myself on this thing, or I can focus on that thing, or this thing and that. And what He's trying to say is there is nothing that you can put your focus on today that will be as important as you having your focus on the kingdom of God, serving Him in His kingdom. Right now, if Jesus were standing physically right beside me, I know that Jesus is all around us. I get it. Don't have to come and tell me later, hey, Jesus is with you. You know that, right? I know. If He was standing right here, right beside me, He said, hey, Kellen, I want to go, today, we're going to go out, we're going to walk the streets of Janesville. I almost said Jerusalem. Janesville. We're going to walk the streets of Janesville, and we're going to talk to people about the kingdom of God. Just you and me, buddy. I think there's a part of me that thinks I would actually say, sounds cool. Let's go do that. There's a big football game the Vikings are playing tonight against the Bears. Could we just wait till after that, Jesus? I mean, is there any chance? Because the thing is, we get sidetracked by things that are seemingly meaningless, often. Small, meaningless, everyday things begin to take precedence over kingdom things, over God, kingdom things. And I think that's why Jesus uses this incredibly these over-the-top situations in this passage to try to help us see how just incredibly much more important it is to go after his kingdom tasks than our small little kingdom tasks of our own little kingdoms. Our commitment to Jesus, to serve him with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind. Bottom line is it takes a back seat to so many things, so much of the time. And in these couple of short conversations that Jesus has on this road to Jerusalem, I think he's trying to tell us as his followers, the people that are trying to follow after him, I think he's saying, serving is not simply just about following Jesus. Serving is involving yourself in the important work of building his kingdom. A little bit ago, I just said that serving's not about you, it's about Jesus. But Jesus is taking it a step further. It's not just about following Jesus, though. It's about doing everything we can to get into the work that he's trying to do to build his kingdom. It's not about building my little kingdom in this world anymore. See, it's a normal thing for us to want good things in life. But it's not always an easy thing to go after it when we find out how much it's going to cost. I know a lot of kids who want to be great basketball players. Just yesterday, I went to my nephew Owen's basketball game, and the kid on the other team scored 63 of the 72 points. It was crazy. It would have been awesome if we'd have played defense. That's just my little token right there. But you know what? For a kid who wants to be good at basketball, you have to pay the price. You have to be the kid that's going to be in the gym, working harder than everybody else, longer than everybody else. I know a lot of kids who want to get good grades. I don't know that many kids that are willing to actually give up sleep hours and time with friends in order to spend the time studying so that they can get good grades. And likewise, I think that these people that were walking alongside the road with Jesus, I believe that they wanted with everything in them to follow Jesus, but they weren't willing to pay the price that it took to follow Jesus with all their heart. Sometimes we want to follow Jesus, we want to do it on our own terms. And a lot of times we think it's all about what I do. You know, I'm not committing this sin or this sin. I'm patient with this person who I shouldn't have to be patient with. I give money to good things. And it all becomes about what we're doing all the good things and the right things. But the thing is, we still haven't, in doing that, sometimes we still haven't given up on my little kingdom is still the most important thing to me. It's when God's kingdom becomes the most important thing that all of a sudden everything changes. We're not meant for building our own little kingdoms. We are meant for building God's big, awesome kingdom. Here's the deal. I get in situations where I realize I'm more worried about what are people going to think about my legacy when I'm dead and gone, buried 6 feet under. When what I should be asking is, how are people going to see God's legacy as bigger because I was here? My initial tendency is to claim that I would do anything for Jesus because I know that's the right thing. And we see right things and we want to go after him. When I was in college, I was in one of my my Bible school classes. We were studying like old Christian thinkers of the faith. And so I know one of the things I did a paper on Martin Luther. And it was just fun to study that guy. I loved it. And I got something in my brain that I wanted to study this guy named Thomas Aquinas. And so I went to the bookstore. Now I only buy stuff on Kindle, but this is still back in the day. I had to go to the bookstore, and I bought this book that was thick and dense. And it was a bunch of Thomas Aquinas writings. And I'm going to tell you, I sat down to read that one time. One time. And it was torture. I couldn't pay the price to learn about Thomas Aquinas and what he thought about life. No matter how much I want to be studious and learn about, what some Christian thinkers thought, some of them, the price to pay is just too hard. In action, it's very hard for us to let go of everything, to choose to serve God before everything else. We might like the idea of it, but honestly, sometimes giving everything in ourselves to Jesus, it feels too pricey. And I can't do it unless I actually get to the point where I'm willing to ask his help so that I can do it. And I think this is another gospel truth that we see out of this passage today. Jesus died literally in his service to you and me. You and I are meant to die to ourselves. We're meant to die to our needs, to our plans, to our ideas of what's most important. There's so much that can get in the way of us serving Jesus the way that he's asking us to serve him. And so we have to acknowledge at some point, God, I need your help, because I am really about my little kingdom. I want to be about yours. One thing I want to say is I don't think that this means that we just aren't going to do normal, everyday life things. Just because I choose to give my life completely over to God and I'm going to serve his kingdom above all else, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to have to take my kid to soccer practice. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit and watch a television show with my kids once in a while. I might even binge watch a show late at night once in a while. See, I think what we get scared sometimes when it comes to the idea of giving ourselves completely over to serving Jesus with all of our lives. And I know from growing up in church as a little kid, it was always, if I'm going to really give my heart over this completely, it means I'm not going to get to do anything that I think is fun. I'm not going to ever be able to watch a television show. I'm going to have to pray and read my Bible the whole time. But I want you to understand something. In the Bible it says that God loves mercy, not sacrifice. And sometimes we think that God wants us to serve him by being so religious and doing all of these religious things to please him. And that's just a thing between me and God. And I think God cares more about what we're doing to love other people. It's mercy. It's serving. I think he cares more about the fact that you're loving people from 10 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning that you're working with than the fact that you watched a show from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night and didn't read your Bible. Now, I think reading your Bible is important, don't get me wrong. But we're not called to be just religious. We're called to be servants. We're called to show mercy and to love people. When Jesus comes calling, will he come first? When Jesus puts a change into your plans, are you okay holding so loosely to your plans that you'll go his way without reluctance? When you've been looking you've been looking forward to this date with your spouse for a long time, and you're about to go on this date, and your child gets sick, or your child is struggling with anxiety, and you have to stick around maybe a little longer than you'd like, or not go on the date at all. Will you still love your child with grace like Jesus would love your child? When you're ready to go out for a run, and it's the only time that day that you can get a workout in, and your friend calls you up and is like, my pipe's just froze in my basement. Could you come over and help me? Are you willing to selflessly love that friend like Jesus would? Or will you do it reluctantly thinking, this guy's going to owe me. He's going to owe me. When you've got your family settled into a community and into a job, you're in a job that you love. And then this still soft voice of the Holy Spirit begins to speak into your heart, saying that a change is about to come. You don't know what it is. Will you humbly set aside your little kingdom that you've been building for the greater kingdom of God? Now here's the deal. I want to be honest and upfront with you. When we do a service series in church, yeah, part of it is we would like you to think about how you are called by God to serve in the church. I want to tell you, that is such a small part of what serving really is. It's a small part. You can serve in the church and still go out into the rest of the world, and your life is not being lived out in service to God. That's not the goal. Are you willing to hold so reluctantly to your plans that Jesus' plans will take precedence for you every single time, even if it means he's going to throw a complete wrench in your plans? See, that's what Jesus was trying to say to these people that he was having conversations with on the road to Jerusalem. Will you follow me when my plans completely mess up your plans? Will you come and follow me and do what I'm asking? I think another thing Jesus would say is he'd want to remind us today, you know what? The Father's plans weren't exactly what I was hoping for at the end there. I'm not asking you to do anything that I haven't done. I followed my Father's plans for my life when it was hard. Are you open to letting Jesus in on your plans each and every moment of every day? Are you ready to let the Holy Spirit mess around with your plans so that he can make those plans serve his purposes and his kingdom? Are you willing to give up on your purposes and on your little kingdom in your world? I want you to bow your heads. I want you to pray with me.